Test, 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 test. Is it annoying as I keep all of these pieces of testing inside of my episodes, or is this just a new way of recording episodes? I'm going to keep it in, and I did it in the previous episode as well. Hello and welcome to part 5 of the 6-Figure Secrets series. In this series, I am unlocking the secrets to 6 figures that you need to know in order to have your first profitable 100k plus year. Today we're talking about how to get consistent with your content, because I said it in the last episode, but we are living in an incredible era of opportunities. Combine ChatGPT with CapCut captions and all of the AI possibilities of creating content, it is now easier than ever to build up a brand from scratch and without even having to make flyers or spend money on ads. Just through our content alone, we can attract more than enough clients to hit our first 100k year, all by ourselves as a solopreneur. But the biggest challenge there is, well, daring to show up online, being brave enough, but also how, in heaven's name, can you get consistent with it? Because especially as a solopreneur, it is really difficult to get consistent with your content. Maybe some weeks you have a lot of motivation and you post. Maybe some weeks you really feel like really crappy and you have a lot of stuff going on with your family and you don't do it. So in today's episode, I'm sharing a little light on back in 2020 when I first started with my podcast, how I used that to get consistent and how I've never missed a single Tuesday since then. And I've gone through a lot of phases. I've gone through a phase of having other people make my content, and currently I'm back to making almost all of my content myself, even in my multi-million-dollar business. So I want to kind of like reveal to you how I'm doing that and how it's helping me to attract the right type of clients. Okay, let's go. Hello, and welcome to Fail to Win, the show where we love to make mistakes and learn from them so you can turn your passion into profits and live life on your own terms. I'm Amy van der Putten from FastForwardAmy, your host and coach, and I'll bring you a new episode with simple strategies every Tuesday. I have an ick. I think it's an ick is what people call it. And I actually don't even know if I'm using the word ick right. I'm not going to look it up. I don't have a lot of time for this episode. Okay, we're just going to do this. But it's that I really hate it when people are inconsistent. And I also judge myself when I'm not consistent. So I want to take you back in time. And before I do that, I want to say that content, especially today, where there is so much being generated by AI, the more personal you can make your content, the more real it is, the more it stands out, because people are really craving those connections and the real life content. So my prediction is also that reality type of content, actual humans vlogging, think Kardashians, think people who vlog online, is going to get even more and more in demand, because people are just craving anything that is real and not just like auto-generated. I've made an episode about this already a couple of months ago, but putting the personal in your content is going to be really important. That's also why I'm doing small things. Maybe if you've noticed this in the past couple of episodes, I leave my mistakes in them. I've kind of always done that. I make more jokes. I'm laughing more because, well, one, I'm feeling really good, but also because I think we don't crave perfect. We are craving, we're craving real. So that's also what brings me to content. I've talked about this in previous episodes of this 6-figure series, but if you want to stand out with your content, if you want to attract people that buy from you, so you hit your first 100k, content is just an incredible way to do that. It is free. You only need your time. You just need a laptop and your iPhone or whatever, which is obviously, if you're listening to this, you have a smartphone and you're fairly privileged. I think this is something we can all agree on. I often have this with clients who tell me like they're stressed about finances and stuff, but they're watching my lives every morning on their smartphone. I'm like, yeah, but you are still really privileged, which is something we can just all agree on. If you have an hour of your time and you have a smartphone, you can do something that reaches people. And I know many of us struggle. I know a lot of people have financial worries, and I see you. And this is also why I want to support you with the free content. And I want to say that we are living in a world where we are very privileged and we get to do a lot with that smartphone and just simply our face and our brain. And it is working. If you're thinking, I'm too late to get on this carousel ride of podcasts and reels, you're not too late. You're still right on time there. And the reason for that is so few people do it consistently day after day, year after year, I see a lot of people starting, but I don't see a lot of people keeping it up. So if you can just stay consistent, you're already going to beat 99.9% of other people online, because very few people actually create a system for themselves, take good enough care of themselves so they can keep on going. I don't know if I just said a lot of harsh things. If I did, I apologize for that. No, seriously. I don't want to make you feel bad. I want to make you feel good. I want to help you to get over yourself and to start taking it seriously. So when I wanted to start my podcast, because I wanted to bring my creativity back. I felt like I was doing well business-wise. I had a lot of clients, but I also felt like it was my business, but I was just going from have to do to have to do. And I thought, you know what? My big goal in life has always been to speak, to write, to do strategy, and that's what I want to do. And I didn't have this, everything became strategic. And I was like, well, I also just want to do something that's creative. And that's when I decided, okay, I want to create a podcast. I ordered a really expensive microphone, the one Amy Porterfield used, still using it, by the way. I got headshots made. I bought a new wardrobe. I announced that I was going to launch the podcast, and then I postponed it, but because I thought the time was off. Spoiler alert, I was actually just afraid to launch it and not disciplined enough. And then I was going to do it again, and I thought, no, it's not the right timing. But what was really going on is I was just terrified. I was terrified no one was going to listen to my podcast, or even worse, I was terrified that people would listen and they would hate it, because I was stuck in that, do I get to be a beginner again? And I talked about that in the previous episode. If you haven't listened to part 4 of the 6-figure series, definitely go and check it out. But I was afraid of being a beginner again, and I was afraid people were going to judge me, until I realized, if I'm not doing anything, I'm not going to achieve anything. Better to launch a podcast and to have 1 listener than to not launch a podcast, because then by default you have 0 listeners. So once I realized that, I was like, okay, I'm going to have to hack myself. And I'm going to announce this when it launches, the exact date and the time and the weekly format. So I said, okay, in January, I think it was January 7th or something, I'm going to launch my podcast. Every Tuesday at 7 a.m., there's going to be a new episode live. So the first drop were 3 episodes at the same time. And then from that point on, I had to release an episode every single Tuesday. And now you might be thinking, oh, but Amy, I don't want to have to commit to my content. I just want to follow my intuition. I just want to do whatever I feel like. Well, if that's what you feel like doing, that is called a hobby. Or not even a hobby, because even if you want to get good at hobbies, you have to be consistent. But I'm like, no one in the Olympics went to train when they felt like it. I think that has been the most inspirational thing for me, and why I watch so many documentaries about pro sports, is because that discipline, it amazes me. I'm now reading a book by Ryan Holiday. It's called Discipline is Destiny. And sure, I think we need to keep in mind self-care and balance, because I think a lot of those books and things, they don't take into account that, especially as female entrepreneurs, we're just carrying a lot of weight, and also like kids and household and societal expectations. So I do want you to keep that in mind. This is also why I talk about this with my clients a lot. Time management, how can we make things efficient? And if we want to go somewhere where we haven't gone before, if we want to get good at something, we're going to need discipline. If you want to get great at cooking, you need to cook. If you want to get great at strength training, you need to put in the reps. If you want to get good at content and attracting new clients, good at marketing, sales, you're going to have to do marketing and sales. And the easiest way to do that is to create a plan that you repeat. So this is what I want to teach you in this episode. How do you create a frequency that hacks you to create your content? So I'm going to walk you through what I think you need in order to build a 6-figure business, like in terms of content versus a 7-figure business. And then I'm going to show you a plan, like a weekly plan, how I would do it. Okay, let's go. Okay, so the first thing you kind of like need to understand is that if you want to build a 6-figure business, you're not going to need the same type of content as you need for a 7-figure business. For example, for me, my podcast is really important because it allows me to reach many, many more people in depth so that they feel like they get to know me before they buy from me. But if I want to reach 1 million, 2 million, 3 millions a year, 3 millions, Millions? Is that how you say it? I don't know. My words are getting stuck. If I want, no, million. If I want to reach 3 million a year, I can't be doing that just like and selling products that cost a couple of thousands. I need to start going for volume. And so my podcasts, for example, are a type of nurturing content, long form content that allows me to connect with people on a deeper level. But people will only listen to my podcast once they get to know me. So if I want more people to listen to my podcast, I need people to also discover who I am, which I do with short form growth content. So look at short form growth content, for example, as Reels or TikToks that are targeted at a new audience. So it's different. If I make a video about my cat, my current audience will love it, my clients will love it, but new people won't love it. If I make a video for new people, I will have to introduce, for example, who I am, build in some authority, and kind of like showcase what I've achieved so that someone new who sees me on Explore will actually be like, oh, I think I have to follow this girl. So what you kind of have to see is that if you want to build a 100K business, you don't necessarily need a podcast because you just also don't need the big amounts of sales. If we take into account 100K a year divided into 4 quarters, that's 25K a quarter. That's 25 sales of 1,000 euros. That's doable. For me, that the amounts need to be much higher, and the podcast for me is a really easy way to nurture more people at the same time, but you don't need it. I have told people or clients of mine, like, you could benefit from it, but short form is definitely more important than long form. What happens is that a lot of people spend a lot of time on their long form, but then they forget to promote their long form. So maybe you've seen this happen, or maybe you do this too. You have a podcast and you're really proud of it, but you don't feel like your Instagram or your TikTok or your email list is growing. That's because you've been prioritizing long form content and not short form content. But if you have short form content, you're going to automatically like attract new leads, and they will also listen to your podcast. So if you have to choose and you don't have enough time to do both, I would say go for really, really strong short form content first that attracts new people. If you want to check, hey, is it actually reaching new people and getting them into my timeline or pipeline or not? You can look at, for example, on Instagram, look at your insights of your posts and look at how many non-followers it's reaching. A lot of people stay stuck at 10 to 20% of non-followers. That means your content is not necessarily attracting enough new people. You want to kind of like flip it. You want content that goes to like 80% non-followers if you want to be on Explore and attracting new people. So if you want to build 100K a year, you need some new leads. You're going to go and get the new leads with short form content. I would advise that you create a form of long form content just so that you have that rhythm in it for you. But I want you to just understand that if someone has good enough, just like snippety-snappety, quick win content on their feed that goes to a new audience, that is usually more than enough to get you enough clients to hit your first 100K a year. If you want to scale to 1 million and more, I will advise you to also include some longer videos or podcasts or something like that. So how do we create this? By the way, like, you don't have to, this is for online entrepreneurs especially. You don't have to like take everything with a grain of salt. You have to do what you want to do. But I just want you to get like, if you have to choose, then choose short form. If you only have limited time, then I need you to choose short form, not long form, because there's no use in having a podcast no one is listening to because you don't have an audience, right? So build up an audience first is what I'm saying. Now, how are you going to make sure you get consistent? So what tends to work really well for my type of brain, so I'm really creative. I don't like other people telling me what to do. I don't like having a lot of have to do's on my list. I consciously also try to call them get to do's. And I don't like repetition. Recipe for disaster. Like, I'm a visionary, and like 95% of my clients are also more visionary types of people than integrators. And that means many of us struggle with repetition, holding ourselves accountable, discipline. We don't like repeating the same stuff. Yet, to build a stable foundation for your business, your content needs to be built in a disciplined way. There are some people who can build a bigger brand with like occasional content, but they usually have already put in years of being not occasional with their content and being very stable. So I like weekly rhythms. And this is the first thing that I'm going to ask you to choose is I want you to choose a rhythm. So you can choose a monthly rhythm. A rhythm would be, we take that as your default and we plan in things in that way. So I have a weekly rhythm, and that means on Monday, I promote my podcast is coming up on Tuesday. On Tuesday, my podcast comes out, my newsletter goes out, I have a reel going out, an announcement post, and then on Wednesday I have a quote, and then on Thursday I have a carousel, and then another quote, and all of that content is from my podcast. So my rhythm is the Tuesdays, and then a week later, the new Monday, it starts all over again. I promote the podcast that's coming up, and I repeat. So for you, it doesn't need to be a podcast. I do recommend having something. So it could be a carousel, it could be your jam, or a weekly live, or a newsletter. So what I'm saying is it doesn't have to be a newsletter and a podcast and a weekly live and all of that. But for me, it did help me stay accountable to my goals, and it might do the same for you. So maybe you're thinking, okay, I get it. I have to prioritize short form content, but I want longer form content. So it keeps me accountable, for example, that can work. So I think for a lot of people, what could work is sending out a weekly newsletter. I consciously chose Tuesdays as my launch day because I always knew, like in the beginning, it was just me. And I wasn't super disciplined. I was like, I don't want to end up having to do it on the weekends. So at least that way I have Mondays to still do it. And by the way, 4 or 5 years later, it's now a Monday and I'm recording. Only I'm not recording my episode for tomorrow. I'm recording more than a month out because I've gotten to the point where I batch my content and I plan it in so that by the last day of the month, my content for the entire next month has been planned in. I've been working towards this for the past 2 months, and I look at it as my content being like a magazine, and it needs to be ready for print. And that gives me a lot of peace of mind because then I get a lot more creative because I'm not performing under pressure. So like right now, I'm a lot more creative in these episodes and I don't feel a lot of pressure, and my breathing is better because I know this is not like for tomorrow, right? I'm planning ahead, and that's fun. But it took me a while to get disciplined enough to do it like this. In the beginning, you won't have the discipline. It's because you're only going to create the discipline once it hurts enough that you didn't do it. For me, it really started hurting that sometimes I didn't have my newsletter ready, I didn't have my podcast ready, and I got sick on a Monday and I was like, shit, I don't have an episode for Tuesdays. So I was really forced in these past couple of years to learn to work ahead. And now it also gives me just like great pleasure that I'm working ahead. And that, for example, my mom texted me like, hey, do you want to go to Amsterdam? Because your brother is in town and the other 2 brothers are there as well. And I'm like, well, let me move around some stuff in my calendar. Yes, I will join, and I will write my upcoming newsletters in the car. But for example, my newsletter for tomorrow already planned in. And I asked her, hey, come and pick me up at 12 so I can first record 2 podcast episodes, which are for September. And it's now the beginning of August. So where was I? What I wanted to say is you choose a rhythm. That's your first step. And what I mean by that is, are we thinking quarters, months, or weeks? I recommend weeks because most entrepreneurs, especially starting entrepreneurs, they can't even think ahead more than a week or more than a month. They're usually working day by day. So I recommend you start thinking in weeks. A really good tip, by the way, is that you take out your calendar. For example, I use iCal or Fantastical on my iMac, and you toggle the thing that says which week is it. So it's now week 32 as I'm recording this, and I know like, okay, for week 32, I have to do these and these things. So start working in weeks. That's your first step. And then I want you to choose your short form. When are you launching your short form? So for example, I have started a new series of no bullshit advice on my other Instagram. And I've decided, okay, Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays. Those are the 3 days I'm going to launch my short form content. I choose the days and I choose the hours. Days plus hours. And this is going to be content that's going to attract new people. And then if you want, you can also choose long form if you're doing long form. But if you're starting out, I would already recommend just start with the short form. Just give it a spot in your calendar and just know, okay, on repeat, I have to do this. So what happened to me, and what often happens is I'll have these really big ideas. I'm like, I'm going to do all of these videos and this and that. And I start writing down how many things I want to publish in a week. And I realized like, Amy, this does not make any sense. You literally do not have enough hours in the day to make that amount of content. So what I do now instead is like, I'll look at what do I need for growth. So what it is, okay, 3 no bullshit videos a week. That's realistic. And I know I can record these within the hour and then subtitle and plan them in. And you know what a lot of people experience is like they'll look at their Instagram, they're like, oh, I still have to post something. And like racking their brain, like, what do I post? What do I post? And then often it ends up being a really bad video because you record it at the end of the night. You're so tired and you're using the last of your brain to record a video in the dark, or you're like, oh, I'll try again tomorrow. The way I've hacked myself is I've just put the bar a little lower. So normal Amy will be like, I want to make a no bullshit video every day. I've put the bar a little lower. And I just choose, okay, Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 9:30, I'm posting those videos. Amazing. When I have the time, I'll batch these a month ahead. Last week, I recorded 8 of those videos in 1 hour, and that was really great. And then I edited all of them while I was on the treadmill. And then I realized with the amount of content I want to make, I do have to outsource a couple of things like the editing. But that was like, I always try to do some stuff myself before I start outsourcing it to actually see how much time does it take me. And also I'm doing a steps challenge. So I kind of like, I just have to hit the steps. Funnily enough though, when I'm walking on my treadmill, it only registers like half the steps. So I was sweating having edited 8 videos, like 50 minutes of walking on that treadmill disc. And my Oura Ring's like 2,000 steps. That was not true. Just not true. So, then what happens is, sometimes I won't have my content batched and I'll be at my desk in the morning after my daily life and I'll be like, okay, so I still have to plan in my social content because I have this little task that pops up on my screen like, hey, your daily social content. And my daily content on a Monday would be in the evening, I have to have the no bullshit video. And the trick here is I know which video it is. It's a series and I know the format. The format is I go sit in my car and I record a really short video. I know which subtitles I use for it. I know the layout, like I'm sitting in my car. I know the vibe and I know I need to have 3 a week. So it makes it really easy for me to batch these, or even when I'm not batching, to be like very last minute and be like, oh, I just gonna quickly record that video and I have the format. The mistake a lot of people make is what I was just saying is you're like, oh, I still have to make a video. And you don't know about what, because you haven't committed to a couple of formats. And if you don't have any formats, I recommend you choose one. So you choose your rhythm weekly, then you choose when you're going to push out your short form. If you don't have anything right now going out, I recommend Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. It doesn't matter. Like 3 a week of videos that attract a new audience. And then you just define the fixed hours, the fixed format, all of that. And then it gets really easy to start recording it. So the way I do it is I just have this list, like literally lying next to my screen. It says Monday, no bullshit. I'm like, yep, planned it in, done. And now actually accidentally I batched ahead and I have them planned in until like 2 weeks from now. And it makes me feel really good because now every day the task pops up and I can be like, already did it. But it is my reminder that gets me to that consistency. The reason you're not consistent usually is because you don't have a plan and then you don't have any discipline built in to follow the plan and also don't really have tasks to do it. So for me, I realized, okay, I need on average 3 videos a week, which is 12 a month. And if we take into account that some months are longer, it's 13 a month on average. So I literally sat down. Actually, I did it this week and I'm like, okay, so if this is my growth strategy, 13 videos a month, and I look at my rhythm for what I'm posting, it's a weekly rhythm, but in how I want to batch and create and plan ahead, I actually have a monthly rhythm. So that's why I looked at, okay, 13 videos. If I was able to record 8 of them in 1 hour in my car, 13 videos, I'm guessing that will take me 1.5 hours. Do I like it? That I'm sitting in my car recording 13 videos and switching up my shirt after every 4 videos? No. Do I need a lot of discipline? Yes. But it has hurt enough for me to always be doing shit last minute. And I just know I'm more consistent when it's planned in. I just love it. And I'm always reminding myself, you're not building a hobby. And again, looking at the Olympics, those athletes also just put in their reps. I can create 13 videos. It's so much more efficient than if I would have to make 1 video every day. I lose an hour every day versus 1.5 hours once. So I save so much time. And then I looked at how much time does it take me to edit. So I was like, on the treadmill, need to get my steps in anyways. I have a couple of steps. I have edit, then I have subtitle, and then I have plan in plus caption. And let's see, I think it took me a little less than an hour to edit all of them. And then subtitling, that's the same step. And then planning and post caption was 30 minutes. So let's assume that I can do all of that for 13 pieces of content in like 60 plus 30, if we add a couple of videos, 2.5 hours. So it means I need 1.5 hours to record, and then let's say 2 hours to do the editing and all of it. These are really short videos. Then it also means if I want to create all of these videos for September, because I don't have any of these created yet for September, and it's now August as I'm recording this, I will need to look at my calendar and be like, okay, where do you have 1.5 hours to record and then another 2 hours to edit and plan in? And I'll do the recording on a different day than I'm doing the editing, because for the editing, I don't need to be pretty. For the recording, I need to be high energy. So I'll usually plan in my recordings. So like 1.5 to 2 hours of recordings on a Monday. And then on the Friday, I will do all of the editing, or like at the end of the day, sometimes I still have some energy, but I'm like, oh, I need to get some steps in or stuff like that. I'll do on my treadmill desk, or even just walking in the street. Sometimes I'm editing, or I can outsource this. But this is the way that I then get to actually have consistent weekly pieces of content going out, because I calculated exactly how much time I need and then I planned it in. But these are the things that never happen. You don't choose your rhythm, you don't choose your format, then you don't actually time how long it takes you, and you don't actually plan in the time it takes you. And then people are like, and I used to be like this, I'm like, why am I never consistent? Why can't I reach the same goals someone else is reaching? And it's like, well, because you don't have the discipline, but literally because you didn't plan it in your calendar. And I know it's really difficult, because then the next question is, how do you hold yourself accountable to actually doing it? Because often people will say, I have it in my calendar, like working on my course that I want to start selling, and I don't do it and I postpone it. And my tip there is, it's usually because it's too vague. You'll put in your calendar like work on the course, but it's like, what is it? Is it creating the outline? Is it making the slide deck? Is it recording it? You really have to split up your tasks. Batching does not mean working on one project. It means working within the same type of your brain. So for me, Mondays are recording podcasts, videos, all of that. But after this podcast, I'm not going to go into using my good brain power to then edit my videos. Editing is something I can do with a lot less brain power. So that will be at the end of the day or at the end of the week. But I do know I need 1.5 to 2 hours for all of the recordings. And then I need another 2 to 3 hours for the edits. And by the way, I did all of these calculations for all of the content I want to put out there. And then I came to the conclusion that I had to get over myself and start outsourcing some of the edits again. Because I just realized like, this is just, I mean, unless you want to get a lot of steps in, it's just too much work for me. But you don't have to do 2 accounts, 2 businesses, and 5 million pieces of content. What I'm urging you to do is simply 3 pieces of growth content a week, 3 pieces of really good content that makes people feel like, holy shit, you taught me so much. I want to work with you. And if you want to build in a bigger rhythm like I have, look at how I'm doing it. So I will record a podcast. From that podcast, I will get a transcript. From that transcript, I will make 2 emails, Dutch and English, and I will turn that into an announcement post, a reel, a carousel, a quote, and stories. So I take one piece of longer form content and I will snap it into, with ChatGPT, with a transcript, with my steadfast formats into smaller pieces of content. The way that's so easy for me to create bigger amounts of content, like more volume, like the carousel and the quote, is because I don't decide every week like, I made a podcast. Well, now I have the podcast. How shall I start promoting it? No, I just know. The podcast gets turned into a reel, an announcement post, a quote, a carousel, a newsletter, and another newsletter. So I don't have to make decisions again. It's kind of like how Steve Jobs was always wearing the turtleneck. I do the turtleneck for my content. It's the same every week. You might not see it. It's incredibly consistent. It's a voiceover. It's a video on camera. It's just the same. So I don't have to think about how am I going to do it this week? Which means I don't lose brain power on this. So I'll just wrap up this episode, be like, boom, transcript, bam, and I'll turn it into literally 8 pieces of content. So that's why I say you don't need to have a podcast, but I do think in terms of content creation, having a podcast really helps because you get to really easily turn a video into audio, into text, etc., etc. That's why I think it is handy if you have longer form content, because it's so easy to create short form content, especially with AI, from your longer form content. I hope some of this made sense. I know that it's easy to get overwhelmed with content. And there I would just give you the advice that my team gave me, like, Amy, maybe you don't do 7 hacks a week, but you do 3 hacks a week. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. I should do that. So start slower and challenge yourself to start treating it like a weekly magazine where you know, like, oh, it goes to print, and going to print means by the end of the week, it needs to be planned in for the next week. You're going to feel so much better. I promise you. And by the way, if you struggle knowing what to post, maybe you're currently launching, you're like, oh my God, that's like sales content that is on top of my normal content. I've created this guide. Like, I used to have this and be like, I'm selling, but I don't know what to talk about anymore. Like, how much differently can I talk about my offer? I really don't know. And then at a certain point, I just made a list of things. I was like, okay, this is the list of 15 things I can always say about my offer. And I turned them into content examples and templates. So if you recognize this, and sometimes you're like, I know I need to promote my offer, but I'm just stuck on what else there is to say because I feel like I'm always repeating myself, go and download my content guide and I'll help you through it, because it's literally 30 pages, because it's 15 examples plus 15 templates you can use to start promoting your content. That means every other day you can just batch this, create the 15 pieces of content, and every other day during a month you are promoting your offer with those tips, right? Go and grab it. You can just DM me promo content on Instagram. That's promo content, all one word, on my FastForwardAmy account or on my Eigen Baas account in Dutch. Doesn't matter where, I'll get it to you. And if you have any questions or you don't know where to find it, just email team@fastforwardamy.com. We're always there to help you. I hope you enjoyed this episode. So your to-do right now is choose your rhythm, choose your fixed format for your short form, plan it into your rhythm, and then calculate how much time you need for the different steps and plan those into your calendar, okay? Let's go. And maybe in the beginning for you, that means you need 2 hours to record the 3 videos, and I can do 13 videos in 2 hours. And that's also because I have been doing this for years. So just a reminder, don't compare yourself to me, but do know that even I need a lot of discipline to actually get it done, okay? Take it step by step, and it's kind of like driving a car. You're gonna get better at it. Bye! Hey, before you go, I have something really exciting to share, because in the last year, I have been lucky enough to have clients fly all over the world to work with me. I've been selling out my mastermind programs, and people have just been literally messaging me, hey, how can I work with you? And some would say that's luck, but it's actually not luck. Over a year ago, I decided to build myself a system that would allow me to be offline, plan content ahead, and just get leads and sales in every single day. And for the first time ever, I am opening this up to teach other people how they can build their own marketing machine. So this is called my authority system. And in 90 days, I can teach you how you can become the go-to expert in your sector who everyone wants to book. We're talking getting premium clients in who want to pay you in full. We're talking premium clients who pay your worth, who don't negotiate your prices. And you are finally going to be the one who gets invited to the podcasts and the events and all of that. Now, this program is only available by invitation and spots are extremely limited. And the first people who sign up will also get a discount. So if you are tired of being the best kept secret in your industry and you want to become the authority, message me invite on Instagram and I'll send you an invite to the closed list, or just simply go to the link in the description of this episode. Trust me, you don't want to miss out on this one.